Welcome back to Shine In and Out, the space where science meets soul. I'm your host, Sammy Stoltz, and today we're talking about something that fascinates everyone: how to look and feel younger naturally. My guest, Mary-Beth Newell, is a registered nurse with a master's in science. She's a nationally recognized speaker and the author of Easy Ways to Delay Aging and Live Better. For decades, Mary-Beth has experimented with skincare, exercise, nutrition, and self-care practices that keep her looking and feeling at least 10 years younger, all without injectables or plastic surgery. People have been asking her for years, what's your secret? And today she's here to share her tips, her tricks, and the science behind them. Let's bring about some science before we begin. Research shows that lifestyle choices directly influence how our cells age. At the ends of our DNA, we have protective caps called telomeres. Stress, poor diet, and lack of movement all shorten them faster, which accelerates aging. But on the other hand, practices like meditation, exercise, and nutrient-dense diets actually protect or even lengthen telomeres. So keep this in mind. Self-care is also cell care. Okay, so I like to start by asking, what brought you to where you are today? What inspired you to do the work that you are doing?
Well, I think some of it, I wrote a book on anti-aging and living healthy. And really what inspired me is as a nurse, I thought everyone else knew the same things that I did. And
Mm,
then I was working with my colleagues. And when they found out how old I was, they kept on asking me, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I would tell them, and then after I would tell them what I'm doing, they repeatedly would tell me, "You should write a book." And so after hearing that for about 15 years, I decided, okay, then I need to write a book and share the practices and tips that I utilize since so many people wanted to know about it, and it's a good way to, um it's a different way of anti-aging or living healthy. It's not it doesn't include Botox or
exactly.
injectables or plastic surgery. So, I think there are things that are out there that people just aren't aware of.
Totally. I love that. I'm all about the let's do it naturally and preventatively as much as we can, because putting stuff that doesn't belong in our bodies, we never know what can happen. So I really like your approach, and I'm so excited to dig in. So I know you've spent years experimenting with all of these different regimens. So if people are always looking for a quick fix, like the serums, the supplements, the surgeries, how do you balance giving them simple tips with the deeper science behind why they matter, rather than something that might be costly but super easy and quick?
Well, I think part of it is for me, working as a nurse, and sometimes you're doing things and it's like I don't really understand why I'm doing this, but if someone explains the rationale to me, then I'm like, oh, okay, it makes sense. So I think sometimes if you explain things like if someone's not properly hydrated, which we're not even really thinking of, it impairs your cognition. So it's like if you want to be sharp, and a lot of times at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when people think that they need a candy bar or a cup of coffee, what you really need is a glass of water to feel better. Another example is if people hunch as you get older, or if you work on a computer a lot, you do hunching. Well, hunching not only makes you look older, it can also contribute to stress incontinence, which people don't even realize. You can get a pot belly from it. If you sit up better, you breathe better, you feel better, you look younger. And like I said, heartburn and incontinence. Who wants that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Biologically, I think about alignment a lot because we evolved with a skeletal system, obviously, and it's meant to be upright, not hunched over at a computer and things like that. And so you're right. People don't think about, oh, yeah, hunching might be more comfortable or easier for your working lifestyle, but it doesn't mean that it's better for you. And oftentimes there is a hump to get over to train yourself to have better posture, but it is so worth it. And even I've been looking into sleep posture because how many hours of our day are spent sleeping and you're all twisty turvy, in positions that aren't necessarily great for your spine. So I love that you mentioned that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I didn't even know I was hunching. I was
Mm.
walking with a girlfriend and she said, "You are hunching and you look old." I'm like, "Huh?"
Jeez.
And then
I
I looked
appreciate
and
the
went,
honesty.
yeah, I'm like, "Uh-oh, I need to start working on this." And one of the devices that I bought, and it wasn't that pricey, but it's something that I've worn it and it sort of gives you like a little vibration if you're starting to hunch so
I've
that you can
seen
sit
that.
up. And I've used it now. What I've learned is when I'm standing, I have very good posture. It's when I'm sitting at the computer. So, you can put it on like a little necklace and it's a nice reminder for you.
I like that. Yeah, I always try to scoot my chair in, try to make myself, in that position because if you start in the wrong position, you're not going to correct from there.
Right.
So that's great. Using your tools, I love that. So in your book, you talk about delaying aging without the surgery and the injectables. What are your top practices that really make you feel like those aren't necessary?
Well, hydration is one thing. Okay,
Yes.
so 80% of our cartilage is made up of water. So as far as joints, aches and pains, and so you want to make sure, and you're flushing out the toxins. It plumps up your skin if you're adequately hydrated. And people just don't, it's so easy. I call it fabulous free water, as far as sure you're taking in enough. Now, sometimes it's hard because we don't necessarily want to be drinking water. How can you get it in? But I mentioned the cognitive deficits or impairments if you're not adequately hydrated. But if you are, even 2%, a little bit more than what you need, your body will naturally stop craving high fat, high calorie laden food. And so it just naturally keeps your body going. So hydration is one. I would say something that's underrated is sleep. You don't realize how important sleep is, not only for your body. I mean, people who, if you routinely get less than 5 hours of sleep a night, your risk of contracting diabetes goes up 2.5 times the average person. And when you're sleeping, it's like there's a whole little, I say it's like a little factory that goes on if you're sleeping well. It's removing toxins. Hormones are being created. Your muscles and cells are being repaired as you're sleeping. And if you don't get good sleep, Samantha, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but like the next day, I am literally ravenous all day
Yeah.
long. I cannot get enough food to eat. And it's
It
because
messes with your hunger hormones. Yeah.
right, right. The one that says you're full, it should be full, is sleeping. I say, like, you should have been sleeping, and the one that says you need to eat is wide awake. So I think sleep. Not only does your skin look better, if you get sleep, you don't have those under eye bags, you feel better, you're brighter, you feel like you can do more things, you have more energy. So I think sleep is significantly underrated. And some people say, oh, I'll sleep when I die. Well, I think people don't realize you're probably going to die faster than you think because you're not getting your sleep, the quality sleep that you need. And then I think the other thing that is vitally important for maintaining your youth is movement. Okay, so whether it's cardio is always good, but I think as people age, we forget about strength training, and strength training has so many benefits. Not only muscle burns calories after you're
Mhm.
done exercising. it maintains your balance, your arms and your legs look better with the strength training, things that you can't necessarily get by just doing the cardio. So I would say those are the top things.
I mean, I've got a bunch of notes on that. I love it. Hydration, first of all, I carry my jug around. It's literally my purse. It's got this pocket with everything I need. And I work in a lab, and you're not allowed to bring food or drink into the lab. And so there are days when I reach that 3 p.m. mark and I'm not drinking as much as my body is used to, and I feel like foggy and same thing with sleep. If I don't sleep, your cerebrospinal fluid doesn't drain and you have all these toxins in your head. And of course you're not going to work the way you're, optimally meant to work. And of course with the diabetes, that is no joke. And I'm sure as a nurse, people don't realize what a big deal it is, how
Right.
detrimental it can be. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the strength training, especially for bone density, especially for women, I really, really love everything that you're sending out here. And so I'm sure from your nursing background, you see a lot of connections between medical science and that like holistic self-care. And I love that you're blending them together. What is what is your idea of where they cross over?
Well, I think there's a lot of benefits that if you do take time for self-care, and some of this is just even me time,
Hmm.
make your frame of reference on the world, if you're kind and compassionate, and sometimes it's not easy. There are times that if I run into a really crabby person, I think people's natural response is to be crabby back or think, they're so rude, that type of thing. But I think if you can just take a deep breath, you don't know what's going on in that person's
Hmm.
life, and sometimes I do have to take a pause and think about it. But when I've run into someone who's been really, you don't know what's going on in their life, you don't know what's happening. Now, they might just be a crabby person, but I try to take the thought that maybe something's going on in their life and, it's just really hard for them that day. And I think if you can say something like, I hope your day gets better. Seems like you're having a bad day. I hope it gets better for you. I mean, you can change that whole person's day that
Absolutely.
somebody cares about them. But I think if you have a lot of negativity and anger, you're getting stressed, you're increasing your cortisol, there's inflammation that can contribute. And if it's chronic inflammation, you're contributing to a lot of chronic diseases that can occur. Versus
Yes.
if you're positive and happy and releasing endorphins, you look better, you feel better, there's less stress on your body as a whole.
Percent. And it's actually what I plan to study in my PhD, the fact that even your mindset and your perception of a situation, the way you perceive a stressor, can change how your body reacts to it and change over time to all of the mini stressors that we face in our daily life can influence your epigenetics, your immunology, all of those things. So I think you're right. There's a huge element of positivity in health and in wellness and in looking more radiant because your cells
Mhm,
have, the positivity in them. So what you were saying about taking time for self-care strikes me because one of the biggest questions that I get from my clients is how do you make the time? How do you, in your
mhm,
busy schedule, force yourself to sit and do things that are just for you?
mhm. Well, it's vitally important because especially as women, and it depends on your age, but a lot of times women are caregivers, okay? And if you're burning the candle at both ends, there's just not gonna be anything left of you, and you're gonna be impatient, okay? You're gonna be that crappy person that someone needs to say, "I hope that, your day gets better." But you have to and I have had a journey of learning to say no. Okay, because you can overschedule yourself and then you're stressed and you're doing things for other people without the ability to have any time for yourself. Even if you only have 15 minutes a day, you need to figure out how to carve it out. And there are things that you can do. You can say no. Now, the way that I've learned to say no without feeling guilty, okay, is I
Huge.
will say, I can't do this, but this is what I can do. Okay,
Mm.
so maybe I can't go volunteer at an event for 2 or 3 hours, but I can make a cash donation, okay? Or, other things that I don't wanna go out with the girls on a Thursday night because I don't wanna go out for 4 hours and drink and, just I need some time to myself, but maybe I can say, "I can't make dinner on Thursday, what about getting together for coffee Saturday morning?" So
I love
there
that.
there are different things, or I'll make it the next time, next month. Those are ways that it helps me to be able to say no without feeling guilty because you don't want to let other people down. And then there are other things that I think sometimes we are very hard on ourselves, a feeling like we have to do everything. So, I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, do you really need to dust? Does it really matter? Or if you have little kids, have them fold their clothes. You don't need to fold their clothes. Give them a basket with their clothes, say fold them and put them away. And, who cares if they're kind of wrinkled and stuff like that? Or sometimes women don't want any, they want the dishwasher loaded a certain way. And it's like, you know what? Can somebody else do the dishes? And don't worry about if the forks are up or down or however you want them. But trying to not be so hard on ourselves or everything has to be perfect, but realizing the benefit you're nourishing yourself when you take that 15 minutes. And it can be really hard. I mean, I'm not really a morning person, but I've tried sometimes setting the alarm 15 minutes earlier and maybe laying in bed and doing some meditation or just some thoughts about my day. You could do it at the end of the day. If you have a super busy day and you're driving, maybe turn off the radio. And now
Yes.
you're not going to close your eyes and meditate, but you might do more like gratitude thinking as
Totally.
you're driving. So trying to find time within your day, or um, I know when I was a young mother and married, I would tell my husband, I have to go for a 30-minute walk. Okay, that's all I need, but I need that to maintain my mental stability and deal with everything in my life. So I think sometimes letting your loved ones know, okay, I need some time to myself, or mommy needs 15 minutes, leave me alone for 15. Put the timer on if you have kids so that they know when the timer goes off, then you can go talk to mom. But I think we don't value ourselves as much as we value other people. And like I said, we're putting ourselves behind all these people that you have to find the time for yourself.
Beautifully said. I learned that lesson the hard way.
Well,
Definitely. I have like a metaphor where I was a firecracker instead of a candle, and I burnt out quick because I was saying yes to everything
uh,
and doing everything for everyone, and I had to build myself back up. And I think people pleasing is a huge part of that, and learning to say no is an incredible lesson. And I love the way that you framed it, that you can just suggest something else, that it's not like a harsh no and no explanation. Because there are people that say, you don't need to give an explanation. No is a full sentence. And I'm like, I know, but it doesn't feel right
hard
to
to do.
me. So I love that, and not being too hard on yourselves and prioritizing and not needing everything to be perfect. I think delegation is a huge skill, and
Hmm.
being able to let go and let people help you is huge, because you can have resentment all day long that people don't help. But often they're willing to help, but you're not willing to hand the reins over because it's not going to be done the way that you want it to be done. So,
Well, Samantha, another aspect of that again, I'm on a journey, is asking other people for advice or help. Okay, because you feel like you
yes.
should be able to do it, or you don't want to bother other people.
Yes.
One thing that I've done is, I have this massive bougainvillea plant that just grows like
Gorgeous.
crazy, and I
Love
have to
them.
cut it back. And, because I don't do it all that frequently, sometimes I end up with all these like clippings from the plant. And where I live, the trash guys will pick it up, but it has to be in a blue barrel. Now,
Hmm.
I had one blue barrel, and instead of going over to my neighbor who has
Mm.
eight, and wasn't using them and saying, "Can I use some of your blue barrels?" For 4 weeks, I would load up a blue barrel and drag it out. And then the next week, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why didn't I just go ask him if I could use his blue barrels? But I think ingrained in myself is you should be independent. You don't want to bother people. But, and like I said, that's sort of like the saying no thing, that it's still a journey that I'm on. Because what I've learned is people love giving you advice if you ask
I
for it.
know! I'm on the same journey.
I mean, sometimes I'll Google stuff instead of just calling someone and saying, "Can you tell me about this?" And people love to give you, they love to help. They want to do that. So, yes, having the ability to change our frame of reference to say, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you advice? Can I use your blue barrels?
It's a great parallel right there, but you're so right, and asking for help and being vulnerable in front of people has been something that I'm on a journey with as well, especially, trying to remind myself that whenever somebody asks me for help, I'm like, yes, I would love to help you. Like, please never feel like a burden. And I'm trying to convince them that they're not a burden. Yet I'm convincing myself that anytime I ask, I'm the burden. So it's hilarious. And it's a cycle that us humans seem to be in. But when we remember our communal roots, and that's what we're all about, and it only helping each other and getting close to each other is releasing these beautiful neurochemicals that only cause good things. So it's really just reminding yourself every time you get into that mindset that it doesn't have to be that way. And I love that you're on your way to that. So as far as exercise and nutrition, we know they're huge for longevity. What routines have you found to be the most sustainable? Because of course we can say working out every day and, eating all whole foods all the time, but it might not pan out, and we might beat ourselves up if we don't do it every day like we said we would. So as far as sustainability goes, what do you recommend that people pick
Well,
up
I
as
think
a
with
routine?
exercise, in January, people always get gung ho and join gyms and go and exercise for an hour, and then they hurt, and then they stop doing it, or I can't find time to go to the gym. I think really trying to create realistic goals and what will fit in to your life. Okay. And then I love using a fitness tracker. So a fitness tracker to me, monitoring my steps, it really motivates me. If I've been sitting at my desk all day long, and you only have a few steps, it's like I need to get up and move, because if I don't move, I'm not going to sleep well. I'm not going to feel
Yeah.
good. So I do like using a fitness tracker. I know you were talking about the benefits of strength training with our bones, and Samantha, I am. They want you to do the DEX, scans on
Yeah.
your bones and everything. So they did it when I was maybe 62, and I've been, exercising and, trying to eat well and everything. And when the nurse practitioner came in, she had to look at the file because I had the bones of a
It's
25-year-old, and I'm not 25. And
awesome.
then, yeah, a year later, they wanted to do it again. And I said, okay. And I had really started on a commitment to do strength training. And I do a little bit, 15 minutes, I try to do every day. And I was surprised because my bones were even stronger a year later. And the only thing I had changed was using some strength training with leg weights. Now, that's another thing. Even if I know I'm going to have a super busy day and I can't get a walk in, I mean, I have dogs. So with my dogs, that sort of motivates you. They get mischievous if
Yeah.
they don't go for a walk. So it's like, okay, at 9:30, I don't really want to go, but we're going to go out for 15, 20 minutes. But sometimes if I have a super busy day, I just strap on my leg weights. So as you're running around the house, I've even gone to CVS with them, and people are like, you have leg weights on. I'm like, yeah, I know. Trying to get my strength training in as I'm doing
So
all this
funny.
other stuff. So, like I said, as far as the exercise of, trying to find what works for you, I like these, like on YouTube, you can find little videos. So there's this 8-minute series that I absolutely love, because I have found if it's 8 minutes and there's a counter for the eight, so it counts down on one side. And then on the other side, with all the different movements, they're either 30 seconds or 45, and it counts down as
Yeah.
well. And then there's, little lights, so as you do everything, it goes up. But I have found that if I can see the time and what's coming, even if like with the dumbbells, sometimes it's hard. It's like, okay, I only have 10 more seconds of this. I can do it. I'll just slow it
Yeah.
down and do it. So I do think trying, or the other things that I do to try to incorporate it into my day is if I go to the grocery store or the dentist or TJ Maxx or something, I park as far away
Yeah.
from the store as possible. Okay. So, and it doesn't take any more time because if you're rushing, going up and down the aisle, trying to find a spot that's close,
Yeah.
just if you pull in there and say, I'm going to park the farthest away. You parked, your car isn't going to get dinged. You walk in, you walk out, you probably got an extra 500 steps without doing anything different. Or a really good rule of thumb is when you're in a location where there's stairs, is to
Mhm.
walk up one flight and down two. So even if you're going to the fifth floor, you could take the elevator to the fourth and walk up. And then when you leave, maybe walk down two and catch the elevator. You might say, this is pretty easy. I'm going to walk down the rest of the flights. So these are little things that you can incorporate right into your day. Or again, if I'm really busy and I don't think I'm going to have time to go for a walk, if I'm making dinner, sometimes I just start dancing. I mean, you dance, you get more
I
movement
love it.
in. Yeah. Or
I love
or
it.
if I wanna look at my Facebook or, social media, instead of sitting on the couch, I walk around the house, because you can
Yeah.
multitask, or if you're on the phone, if you don't have to be in front of
Yeah.
the camera for a call, you walk around as you're
100%.
talking on the phone. So these are ways that even if you don't have an hour to carve out, you can incorporate into your day to get that exercise in.
Absolutely. I love killing two birds with one stone. It's like one of my favorite things to when I figure out a new thing to do. I have a weight belt that I wear when I do my house chores, and it's just that extra like, oh, I can't make it to the gym today because I have so much to do, but at least I'm doing something and I'll, feel a little sore in my core the next day and I'm like, all right, we did something. Or I'm at work, haven't walked at all, but it's raining outside. So I do the stairs. I go up and down the stairs a few times, get my blood moving, get my body moving. And it's so much more realistic, and you're right that if I don't move enough, I don't sleep well, and with the parking far away and walking, like, there's small things that seem like nothing, but with the compound interest of all of the times that you do that, it's amazing the difference it can make. So those are incredible suggestions.
The other thing I do is I try to find practitioners. Now, not everyone can do this. It depends on the location that you live in, but I try to find practitioners like a hairdresser, if you get your nails done or a doctor's office, dentist. I try to find so that it's within a mile so that I will walk there and
I
walk
love that.
back. And sometimes if you go, it can be a very crowded area where you're going to have to go into a parking lot and try to find parking. So by the time I walk 15 minutes, by the time I would have gotten in the car, or I can't stand the idea of getting in the car to go 2 or 3 blocks. If
Yeah.
you want to run to the CVS or the grocery store just to pick something up if it's close. It's like by the time you get in the car, you get out, you're at a light, you find a parking place, you could have just walked there and walked back and gotten your exercise in.
I completely agree. My mom and I actually love choosing the restaurants that are within walking distance because you walk before your meal, you feel great. You walk after your meal, you're digesting. It's great for your blood sugar. It's great for digestion, everything. And I'm like, wow, like this is the life. It's not a chore, it's a gift. So that's really great. And so that all works really well because a lot of our listeners right now are busy professionals or caregivers, and I think it's these small steps that can help them start without feeling so overwhelmed that they have to change their entire routine. It's just finding those moments within your day that you can add a little extra exercise or self-care.
Well, and some of the science behind that, everyone's interested in their 10,000 steps. And I
Yeah,
don't know if you're aware, but it was actually a pedometer company that they just made up that number to sell pedometers, a Japanese pedometer
brilliant.
company. Since then, there has been research. So if you do about 2,700 steps a day, which is not a lot, it might be but a mile or so for most people, your risk of dying early goes down by 8%, and your risk of having icky cardiovascular events like a heart attack, stroke, goes down by 11%. Now, if you get 9,000 steps, your risk of dying early goes down 60%. So going from 2,700 steps to 9,000, and your risk of those cardiovascular events is cut in half, 51% reduced risk just by getting 9,000 steps. So that's why, like I said, if I'm not getting, I try to always get my steps, but if I don't, and like I said, I want to look at social media on the phone, that's why I'm walking around the house, to
Yeah,
get those
I
steps
love
and
that. Make it
try
a
to get
game
it
with
because
yourself.
they're,
I've got a stair
yeah.
stepper, like it's literally just a stool and you step up and down, and while my, like, food's heating up, I'll just do steps. Like, make it a game.
Yes, that's a great idea. You gave me an idea here.
That's awesome. So, you've been recognized, of course, not just for your health expertise and your great tips on longevity, but also for your community service. And I find that community is a huge element of health. And oftentimes people don't realize that. So, how would you say giving back has shaped your own sense of vitality?
Well, I think the first thing that it does is people can be very egocentric. I mean, we're concerned about ourselves, we're thinking about ourselves.
Yeah,
And so when you do community service or any kind of volunteer work, it's all focused on other people. So one, I think not thinking about yourself as much has some benefits, but I find that when you're working with other people or trying to give back, and always volunteer work is always trying to improve something. Okay, an organization, a group, whatever you're doing for people, that it just helps you be more grounded. You become more compassionate and kind. And especially, I find I have a sense of gratitude for what I have. Because I think
exactly.
sometimes we compare ourselves to somebody else and, why can't I have that? You might be envious of some of your friends. And, not that you want to be envious, but it's just a natural emotion at times. But again, I think if you're doing some work in the community, it really is a lot easier, grateful for what you have and realize the blessings you do have in your life. And then you're not as worried about as much as your friend has this or your friend has that or they're doing this because you recognize what's important in your own life. And
Exactly.
like I said, I think it grounds you a bit.
I couldn't agree more. That's beautiful. And also just feeling connected to your community overall, I think is huge
Mhm.
as humans and evolutionarily. That's what we were meant to be as communal beings. So I think absolutely it's huge. So if you had to design a Mary Beth starter kit for somebody who wants to look and feel younger and healthier starting tomorrow, what would you throw in your little kit?
Well, a couple of the things, I do think there's benefits to like facial brushes. There's different versions. Like a brush, so you use a facial brush on your face to clean it. There's Olay has it, Clarisonic used to make some, Michael Todd, and a lot of them are waterproof, so you have it in the shower. But that helps to get rid of it helps to exfoliate and
Yeah.
then allows any if you use serums or moisturizers, they can penetrate better. So I would have a facial brush in there. Also, I would have some green powder, like a green drink. There's
Totally.
a whole, like I have this one here, and it looks like pond scum. But what it has in it is probiotics, prebiotics, lots of vitamins, all those grasses and dark leafy greens that you can't get enough in your day. And I
Mhm.
feel that it improves my skin actually because you're nourishing your body. I would have that. I would have sunscreen. So I think the other thing is sometimes people don't, they use sunscreen if you're going to the beach or you're going to be out all day.
Mhm.
Okay, but you really should be using something with sunscreen on your hands and your face and your neck every day. So try to pick either a foundation or a moisturizer that has some sunscreen. I would have a sleep mask. Okay, I use a sleep mask because that helps me to sleep better. And I would probably have maybe some leg weights in there, maybe some
Yeah.
dumbbells so that you can use it. Now, sometimes And you have to build up to all the stuff. I mean, I use 10-pound dumbbells, but I started out with 2, 2 pounds, okay. Or sometimes you could just get little, like,
Yeah.
bracelets that you can put on, so that's another way. You just put it on, like you said, doing your chores, you're exercising. And I think I would have, for me, as far as meditation, some people, they call it mindfulness, but when I was doing meditation initially, called it mindlessness because you're supposed to not think about anything.
Mm.
So I would do that, and then about 5 seconds later, I'm like, "I'm not supposed to be thinking of anything," you know? It's like all these thoughts come in your brain, and it's like, I'm not supposed to be thinking about that. So for me, it's a lot easier if I have guided meditation, where they're walking you through what you're supposed to do versus just trying to sit there and not think of anything because then all these thoughts come in. It's like if you're not supposed to eat meat on Fridays, guess what? You're craving a hot dog or a
Yeah.
steak or something,
Yeah.
where you might not eat it the rest of the time. It's the same thing. If you're not supposed to be thinking of anything, all these thoughts are coming into your mind. And I
100%.
think I love those little 8-minute videos that I have. I think I'd have a few of those in there just to help people get started because 8 minutes, you think, I can find 8 minutes to do something. And
Yeah.
especially if there's that countdown with it. So those are some of the things that I'd have in it, Samantha.
I love that. What a great little basket. I hope we can all get one. We can all make one.
I love that idea. I think I should create one.
Yes, yes, a Mary-Beth basket. Um, the meditation thing, and I try to teach my clients this because it's so counterintuitive. Our brains don't understand the negative. If you say, "Don't run into that pole," over and over, you're gonna run into the pole.
Run into the pole.
Telling yourself not to think, yeah, telling yourself not to think is futile. It's never gonna work. So I agree that there is either an acceptance, a gentleness about the thoughts that come and learning to let them go and move back to stillness, or guided meditations, which I think are much better for beginners because at least you get a feel for what meditation truly is about before you get frustrated with yourself. So that is super great. And the greens drink, I'm actually trying to make a wellness drink because I have looked near and far, all of them, they all have certain elements. Some have protein, some have probiotics, some have prebiotics, some have greens, but none of them have everything. And so I'm like trying to build a formula because I want to do that for myself anyway. And if I'm getting as many vitamins as I can, I want everybody to get as many vitamins as they can. So I will keep you updated on that. But
If you need a
with,
tester or someone to
yeah, yeah.
experiment on.
Great, great, great. I love that. So, in that vein, I'm very all about changing the narrative around aging and how we treat our bodies and how we think about our health because of how much of an impact that we already know that it makes. So, looking ahead, what is your vision of how in the future we see aging with more empowerment and joy and energy, even?
Well, I say 60 is the new 40. I mean, if remember the show The Golden Girls?
Yeah.
Supposedly they were like 55. And I'm like, they look like they're 85 with today's
Woo.
standards. But I think it's important to be around younger people. I think sometimes as you get older or if people are retired, you're only around people your own age and then the younger generation. But if you're not interacting with people that are younger, you may almost have a bias on
Yeah.
what the younger generation thinks. But if you're talking to younger people, understanding that, I think pursuing a hobby with passion,
Yes.
especially if people get into those retirement years, it's like, okay, what are you doing if you're, not a mother, if you don't have a career, whatever? You really need to have a hobby that you have a passion, something you want to get up for, that you feel
Yeah.
energized. That positive attitude. With the positive attitude, not only people who are positive, there's less of that cortisol and inflammation, but people are seen as having better personalities. You probably do, because who wants to be around a negative Nelly? But they're also seen as being more attractive. more attractive and better personalities if you have a positive attitude. I think you end up glowing, from the inside, you have a positive
Totally.
aura that comes out. And I think the other thing to avoid as people get older, they almost become fixated on their health. It's like,
Mm.
I don't want to hear about your health. Maintain your health, but let's not make that be a main
Yes.
topic of conversation because that's sort of the negative thing you're talking about. That sounds like a little bit like the law of attraction.
Yes.
If you keep on saying, I don't want thoughts, I don't want thoughts, the thoughts are coming in because you're saying, you know, even though you're saying you don't want them, they're gonna come. So I think just focusing on like Clint Eastwood, I think his thing is don't let the old man in. Uh, that people ask about how he's so vibrant and relevant in his 80s and 90s, but they said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Just don't let the old man in." So I
Yeah.
think taking advice from
Mindset.
him and, just not getting old thinking. So these are some things that I've found that I think help to keep you young and vibrant and people want to be around you.
That is so huge, Mary Beth. The idea of even just what you focus on will grow. If you are consistently focused on, oh my God, I'm in pain. Oh my God, I'm getting older. Oh my God, that is what's going to happen. So you're right. Like, let it happen, but don't bring it to the forefront. And we see so often after people retire, they decline in their health so quickly because the concept of use it or lose it is very true mentally, physically.
Mhm.
Don't stop. Don't stop using it. You don't have to be stressed and working, but have a passion, have a hobby. And I love what you said about surrounding yourself with people that are younger than you. And even now, I strive to surround myself with people that are better than me in whatever regard that I would like to grow in. And because it forces you to develop those habits. And if you're in an environment with people that aren't doing anything, it's going to be a lot harder to do things. So being kind to yourself, realizing that you take on a lot of who you surround yourself with, and don't stop using it because we don't want you to lose it. I love it.
Right. Right.
Wonderful. Do you have any last minute things you would like to add or discuss? I mentioned in my outro that you have your ebook on your website, which I'm excited to dive into. But if you have anything else you'd like to share with our audience.
I think I just like to tell people you can do this. So whatever, like as you mentioned, Samantha, all these little habits eh, end up with significant long-term effects. And no one's perfect. Even if you're trying to improve your nutrition, let's say you love sugar. Okay. You're not going to give
Yeah.
it up. Well, if you give it up
Who
overnight,
doesn't?
you're not going to feel good. You're going to be bloated. You're going to have a headache. You're going to be tired. Things are a journey. And I think realizing that but it's the little steps. So let's say you love sugar, okay, and you eat a candy bar every day. Well, go to half a candy bar, or and then ease yourself out of it. Or if you like, I think the worst thing for Americans is like regular soda that has a ton of
Mm,
sugar on it in it
yeah.
is going to maybe a sparkling drink that has fruit juice in it. So there are ways to ease yourself out of negative habits. But I think anytime you try to do something drastically, it
Mhm.
usually doesn't work. Okay, because you need
Totally.
to almost develop a habit, get into it. Okay, I did this for 6 weeks. Now I'm ready to do this, and now I'm ready to do this, and you figure out how to incorporate it into your lives. But you can do it.
Yeah, cold turkey works for some people. Great for them. But to expect that of yourself is to set yourself up for a failure because, like you said, you need to wean yourself off of it. And when you start feeling better, it's a reward and then you want to do more. And it's a journey, it's a cycle, and it's being gentle and kind to yourself because if you're mean to yourself on this journey, you're going to want to stop the journey. And I see so much of that. So yeah, that's another great skill is learning to enjoy the journey and be gentle with yourself.
And be happy for what you've accomplished. Okay.
Yes.
Again, don't try to compare yourself to the Joneses or your friend that works out an hour every day and can do all this stuff. It's like if you can take a 15-minute walk a day, then be happy for yourself. Okay, that you're doing that at least. So, like you said, be kind to yourself, recognize your accomplishments, and give yourself a pat on the back.
That's So true. So true. So often we're on to the next thing. What can we do better, better, better? But rewarding ourselves by looking and saying, especially if you were in a situation where you doubted yourself or you had fear around it and you did it anyway and you succeeded, that is the ultimate dopamine release and will only make you do those things more and more as you go. So, absolutely. Well put. All right, Mary Beth. Well, that'll be all for today. I'd love to have you back sometime. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom, and it's been such a pleasure getting to know you.
It was for me too. It was great, Samantha.
All
Like I said,
right.
I learned from you too.
Mary Beth, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your wisdom and your energy with us. I love how you bridge your nursing background with practical, real world tips that anybody can begin applying right away. For those listening, you can connect with Mary Beth at marybethnewell.com, where she's offering a complimentary mini ebook called Easy Ways to Delay Aging and Live Better. And remember, self-care isn't selfish. It's science. Every small choice you make today shapes how vibrant you feel tomorrow. So until next time, keep shining.